Yeah.
Warning.
So, I mean, it's morning. It is about. Hold on, let me just zoom in a bit. But okay, so it's morning on Saturday, aka the Sabbath, and I was just sitting and reflecting. What I want to talk about, since last year. Uh, it's almost a year since some of us have been to church thanks to COVID, and it kind of got me thinking, right? How's the journey been? How's that experience been? What has it taught me throughout the whole journey of religion, spirituality, and whatnot, right? And I think the one thing that I've come to realize is who watches this, whether it's my dad or whatnot, this has nothing to do with a reflection of how I was brought up or whatever, or an expectation. But not going to church has made me realize that I was more of a church member than a disciple. And I think the biggest difference is between a disciple and a church member is the fact that are you just going to church because of going to church in the motions, or did you go to church to spiritually enrich your life, right? And I think the lack of going to a physical church made me not even engage outside of church in any um, in any what in any spiritual activities besides family devotion during our night, or rather my parents' morning. So quick background. I was born SDA. Like both my parents' sides are Seventh Day Adventists, which, for lack of a better term, just means we go to church. We believe that Sabbath is on from Friday evening to Saturday evening. So that's the biggest difference. There are other tiny differences based on the fundamental beliefs and practices and whatnot. But that's a whole story for another day, right? And so I realized most of the time the only thing I engage in when it comes to um, spirituality and religion, hold on, and is is me pretty much engaging with it with my family, and yeah, it's I don't think I've grown spiritually, right? Because no, I think I've grown spiritually, but not religiously, in the sense that I've come to realize certain things over the past years, or rather just cemented it um, more than I used to engage with it. And right now I'm just literally speaking as I go. So my thoughts may not be organized, but the content is there. So one of the biggest things that I always say is that if I wasn't born into the religion, right, that I was in, what would I be? And often at times people, um, I tell people that I'd be Muslim instead of SDA, because if I was an SDA I wouldn't go to any other Christian denomination, but I'll go to Muslim straight away. And the reason I say that is because from my perspective of them, remember okay, so I lived in Mombasa, which is mostly majority Muslim area or environment, and so I have a pretty familiar understanding with them, but I've never been involved within them, like as internally as I would have if I was actually Muslim. But my perspective of it is that the way let's call it the Sunni Muslim, to be specific, the Sunni Islam that is practiced in Mombasa is the same thing that you'll see being practiced here in America, or being practiced in the Arab nations, or in the UK, or whatever it is. It is pretty standard, right? And we'll get to that. As opposed to one thing I realized when I came to the US, because I came to the US in 2016, and one of the biggest realizations is the fact that SDS, short for Seventh-day Adventists, we really don't have a uniform identity, right? And that really bugged me, especially in America, because it originated from America and spread across the other countries. But other countries hold it with higher regard than they do in the US. We find that I'm not trying to bash SDAs or whatever, but we find that here in the Seventh-day Adventist arena in the US, it is so divided along racial lines, for lack of better terms, because we could be in one city. I'll give you an example. In Milwaukee, within the metroplex of Milwaukee or in Wisconsin, there are around, I think, 3 main churches, maybe 4, because of one, the Vietnamese or Spanish, I'm not sure, but there are 3 main ones. One is white, basically run by one family. Another one is white but kind of young, right? And it welcomes a young group of people. The other person has older people and whatnot, and then the third one is black, pretty much predominantly black. And we find that even though they're within the same region, then like 2 different conferences, and none of them interact with each other. Back home where I used to live, right, we were clustered in districts, right, regionally speaking, and so we would engage in activities, and this kind of helped to enrich our lives, enrich each other, because within the area you're living in, you're not alone, and you can pretty much see other people. Here it's like you go to church, you only go for, you go because either you used to go or out of habit, or you're meeting people there, and that's pretty much it, because outside of that there's really not much activities. So I try to engage in a bit of the activities during the church choir, which my sister bashed me for that, and I was like one of the 3 only males maybe in that choir, but it was an interesting experience, which is a story for another day. But bringing it back, right, me realizing that the American setting of the SDA thing is so divided. That's when I was in Milwaukee. Now when I came to Texas, right, it's even more divided. You find that certain churches just open because of some, for lack of better terms, which I'll mute that part out. But you'd find that churches that are next to each other do not interact, or they've interacted before and it ended badly and they don't want to reconcile, they just move on, and it creates such a bad culture, because that is not the same SDA world that is brought in. And I feel like the purpose of religion is religion, not spirituality, religion specifically, is to give us an environment to help support each other, because you go through the week seeing, what's it called, you go through the week seeing, going through your tough times, you go through your own tribulations and problems, and then you come to church because now it's a day of rest, right? Sabbath is a day of rest, and you are not supposed to be thinking of work, you're supposed to be doing any worldly pleasures and so on. That's just a day whereby you're supposed to relax. But then relaxing doesn't mean just staying at home. It means interacting with others of the same faith to grow each other. And this is where you meet people having their different issues, and just you guys ignoring all those things and coming together as one to participate in that communal gathering and helping each other grow. And trust me, I love that, I appreciate that, and that's what really keeps me grounded, because I feel like we move so fast in this world, we never take a time to breathe, and having that moment whereby you don't think about work and you are just connecting the people around you, we lose that. And this is what it brings us to understand. We need to understand that we are social creatures. They say this, I know, I've had this statement, I don't know who told me exactly, but we are social creatures and we depend on each other to boost each other. That's why you find that in prison, isolation is one of the biggest worst punishments, the worst punishments, because it can drive somebody crazy. We've been in a pandemic, we've been social distancing, isolating, whatnot, and the ISO that we've done just in our houses has really made us go crazy. Like, people had to like force themselves to go out and whatnot, and so not having a hug or cuddle or whatever it is you may have it after a long period of time, and receiving it, it boosts you so much that you realize you don't need it until you start missing it, and that's just something else. But when it comes to missing that, I realize I was more of a church member rather than disciple, is because I was never keen on bringing anybody into the church, simply because I wasn't too confident with the church structure, and I didn't want to bring somebody and then they'd be like, on one bad day of the church, and then they'll be like, oh, so this is the church you go to, this is the kind of things you go through. I would never want to come back. I wouldn't want to give them that experience, because I'm not in control of the kind of experience they might have. And I say this because I have seen extremes, like really bad, even in Kenya, like really bad church experiences versus really good. And Mrs. Lillian, if she ever watches this, I know she wanted us to bring her to the church, but the kind of things that just so happening in church, if I wasn't born in it, I really would stay out of it, because even we get tired of it. So that's why I wasn't keenly working to bring other people into the church. But I believe that my actions or how I conduct myself should be able to have somebody look at their life and be like, oh, what makes you, or look at my life and be like, oh. Sorry for that interruption. Yeah, so I was saying, so I believe that my life should be someone of its own, without having to physically or explicitly tell somebody to come to church with me, because churches have their own experiences, and as much as we go to uplift people, you find that there's always judgment in church, there's always some sort of social problem that comes with it, and I didn't want that to be. I didn't want that to be on my name, because for me, I like to have a great conscience that if I tell you to come to this, you have a good experience, you're not to come back. And then after, first impressions, you can never redo a first impression, because you start building on a myth that after first impression, you'll start looking for evidence to back up your myth instead of debunk your myth, and that is also another story for another day. But essentially, I wanted my life to be what gets people to be different, do different. And I've come to realize I'm not perfect. I realize that as much as I try to be different, you find that you may have that whole two lives kind of situation, which there'll be story times one time, but especially in the city world, you find that people have like two different lives, like the life during the week versus the life during the on Sabbath, and you meet two people, you find two different things. And so people have freedom to do what they want, to choose what they want to do. But when it comes to spirituality, I ask myself, why did I become a Christian? Why did I pick this? Or I didn't really pick it; it was picked for me to some extent. But now we have to justify why we do it, and so we're defending something that we were given, and it has, because it has worked. You will end up finding that you get a lot of backlash, right? But one thing I want to have a discussion over is I'd actually want to set up a Zoom session. So for anybody who wants to get engaged, let's talk about your thoughts on religion. Let's talk about your thoughts on Christianity, to be specific. Because don't get me wrong, I have the beliefs of there is a God. You should have a day of rest. There is some things that you can't really argue with, right? But there's still so many questions that go unanswered that people just turn a blind eye to because of, in the name of faith, right? But sometimes you have to think. You can't just take what you're given and just, take it as it is, because a lot of things, I can tell you joke in Swahili, and then if somebody translates that joke to English, it loses so much meaning, which is the same way, like, the Bible has been translated so much, I'm pretty sure it's lost its meaning, and it's, like, there's so much to it that I really don't have time to explain right now, but I would really love to start on a debate, or rather, not a debate, rather a discussion, because I realize that nowadays people don't tend to, our parents or people before us really hate on it. I'm not hating on it, I'm just saying that there are more questions that need to be answered. We need to answer some questions without taking things with a blind eye, and that's just the beginning of enlightenment, because if your enlightenment is stuck to one thing, you can't say just because you touched the tail of an elephant, that it's an elephant, or because you touched the horns of an animal, it's a rhinoceros, when it could as well be a warthog or an elephant. So this discussion is not supposed to bash anything, but rather just open up that conversation, and whether it's really up to you to make your own decision, but I know I need to engage more with even my own religion to get more understanding, because there's still some knowledge that could help me live that lifestyle. And like I said, the only reason I said I would be Muslim is because of the lifestyle, because they actually, there's prayers 5 times a day, more intentional, that is structured, that helps you build your character. There is the Ramadan, there is, those kind of things help you stay grounded and spiritual as we should be. And the beliefs are also quite similar to Christianity. It's just that there's a difference in, historical dividers, which I can't just speak to because I haven't read it entirely, but I have a brief understanding of it, which is another conversation that we can have on a separate time. But I just want to come to the conclusion, because this is going pretty long. But the difference between me being a member versus a disciple is the fact that me realizing that I'm actually not a disciple and a member is the fact that I enjoy the engagement with people rather than I focus. Rather, I realize I don't really focus as much on the spiritual development, and I definitely really want to change that. But I feel like we need to stop looking at religion as a one-time thing, but rather a lifestyle, because in this world, I think our purpose, my belief is that our purpose is to help each other get through life and just show love. Like, if you understand love, you understand spirituality and religion, because love doesn't judge, love doesn't gossip, love doesn't hate, with love there's so much that can happen that we don't realize, but we as religious people don't see that, and we don't question it. So yeah, let's I can't really have a conclusion to this because there's more to it, and this session, this is a really long vlog or a journal. But for today, I just want to tune into YouTube Live, watch one of the sessions, and get one of the sermons, because with each sermon there's something you can imply and you can append to your life to make it better, to how you live and how you interact with others, because there's always a lesson to learn from somewhere. So with that said and done, since there's no conclusion, all I ask is leave your comments down below regarding whether you think you are a, you are a church member or a disciple, or how you view that whole scenario, and I'd appreciate your feedback, and let's get this talk going. So yeah, thank you for listening, thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to stay tuned. I have no schedule of when I'll be doing this more often, but I'll try and do it as often as I can, and yeah, let's engage. I am that guy, aka Yulemse, you know the vibes. Hey.